being ruled by Mexican mafia. And I'm just wondering, with the Proposition 19, the tax control and regulate, do you think this would encourage more domestic production by domestic growers, or do you think we're going to be getting more coming across the border?
I think what's going to happen is basically what happened in Canada when the government decided that they were going to go ahead and allow it to become a part of their national health system. They found out that they couldn't grow. And they couldn't find growers who were willing enough to come and grow because they put an ad in the paper and said, if you're a grower, show up at such and such a place and sign up and we'll allow you to grow. Excuse me, there's no grower on the face of the planet that's going to trust the government in any way, shape, or form. And number two, if you're going to do this, wouldn't it be better to have your growers lined up first? We can domestically produce cannabis in this state and in this country as good as anywhere throughout the world, with the exception possibly of some locations in Southeast Asia. But that's not a question of climate or a question of soil or a question of longitude and latitude as much as it is a question of the ability to grow. And we have growers. We've proven that time and time again, that both Northern California growers and Southern California growers can produce good, quality, organic product without a cost factor that's skyrocketed. It takes 54 cents to bring a plant, an outdoor plant, to fruition. There's no reason in the world why that 54-cent plant should be turned into a $5,600 pound. There's no way. And yet we're paying for that. And one of the reasons we're paying for that is law enforcement's move to eradicate it. And they will go through whatever extremes necessary to do that. The cartels are here because they can't bring it across the border. Bringing it across the border is becoming more and more difficult, and they find that it's cheaper to hire a couple of people to go out and sit in the middle of federal land and grow pot. Up north, if you talk to the growers up north, they want the cartels gone. They can't wait for the government to come up there and rip off the cartels. And they're very happy when that happens. Last year, Camp spent the majority of their time eradicating pirate gardens that belong to cartel members. But as far as cartels are concerned, you've got local cartels just as well. You've got them in Humboldt, you've got them in Trinity, you've got them in Mendocino, and these are local growers. And of course, they're going to be trying to get the best price that they can for their product. So I think what's going to happen eventually is that if we pass 19, we're going to be able to get commercialized gardens, and if that's the case, it'll be up to the private sector to provide the product. It'll be up to the public sector to regulate the product, and it'll be up to the consumer to buy what they want to buy. And that's the way it should be.
Precisely. Now, reflecting on your experience with the Sheriff's Department, is there any advice you might have to our viewers, to cannabis consumers, when interacting with law enforcement?
I think the biggest thing that you have to remember is when to shut up. Because basically what you're doing is because most cannabis users are openly honest people, and they're mostly law-abiding citizens, they want to cooperate. So if they're asked a question, 9 out of 10 times they'll answer the question, and they'll answer it honestly. Remember one thing about the police. They're not there asking you these questions because they're your friend, and they want to know how you're feeling. They're asking you these questions to see whether or not you're impaired, or whether or not there should be a criminal, a charge against you, or whether or not they have enough probable cause to cite you or to search your vehicle or to arrest you. They're not your friends. They're there to do a job. And that job is to find out through investigation whether or not you've committed a crime. And if you've committed a crime, of course they're going to respond to that. That's what they're paid to do. I think what all people should do is you be respectful. You don't be dishonest. You answer their questions the best of your ability without incriminating yourself. If they ask you about a certain street location, don't think that they're stupid and don't know the streets. They drive the streets every day. They know where all the cul-de-sacs are. They know where all the alleys are. They know that Jefferson does not intersect with Elm. They know that Maple does not, intersect with Birch. They know that Lemon is a cul-de-sac. They know that there's a signal over on the corner of Grand and 7th. They know this. Why? They drive these streets every freaking day. And when they go out there, they're going out there for one purpose and one purpose only: to prevent crime, to keep the peace. And if they see that there's a reason to stop you, and they do stop you, and you get out of your car and start telling them, yes, sir, I'm a cannabis user, and my pot is in my, my trunk, well, then woe be it, If you've got a license, if you've got a state identification card, if you've got a recommendation to use cannabis, if that cannabis is in the front of the passenger compartment, they can test you for being under the influence. They can assume that you're under the influence. So the bad thing about cannabis is that you are under the influence technically for a long period of time. You may have ingested at 7 in the morning, but if you're caught at 4 in the afternoon and they do a urine or a blood sample, they're still going to find traces of cannabis. It's fat soluble. It adheres to your fat. In the cases of people like me, it's all over me. Fortunately, though, I carry a card and recommendation and a few other things that says I'm a legal patient. But that doesn't give me permission to drive and smoke. It doesn't give me permission to be under the influence. It doesn't give me the permission to go out in the middle of a public mall and spark up a joint. It does not. And I think what people have to realize is that this is a substance that has carried at least 70 years of a very negative stigma associated to it, and people are going to have to realize that a lot of people out there really don't like it. They don't want to do anything with it or have it around or near them, and this is, their prerogative. But they're going to be the ones that are going to respond negatively. We have to change that stigma. We have to change it through shows like this, through booths, but what I would like to see is a more positive education of those who do use it, but deny the fact that they use it. I'm tired of seeing judges who smoke pot sentencing people who smoke pot to prison. I'm tired of seeing prosecutors who smoke pot prosecuting people. I'm tired of seeing the legalized asset forfeiture, which is nothing more than legalized thievery. And the majority of them are coming from potheads. Speed freaks don't have money. Heroin addicts don't have money. They don't own property. But potheads have property. They have cars. They live in apartments. They have condominiums. They own houses. For the most part, they're the most law-abiding citizens around, most of them. And the ironic part about it is they're the most persecuted. It's they who lose their property. It's they who lose their money. You don't see large-scale drug operations that net millions and millions of dollars coming from cocaine running or heroin running. You see that this person here grew for that, dispensary, and they, were in cahoots, and so we're coming in and taking everything. Wham fought for their existence. Lynn and Judy Osborne, their property was forfeited. These are people who grew for collectives, righteous collectives, bona fide collectives, and these collectives were either raided or charges were trumped up or whatever. And to me, this is ridiculous. You have people in Palm Springs that were raided by the DEA where they made his wife stand naked from the waist up for 2.5 hours. They knocked the door into him so hard that it broke his collarbone, cracked 3 of his ribs, and they find an ounce of pot. All of this is for an ounce of marijuana? Give me a break. This is ridiculous. We are not the ones that you need to worry about. We really aren't.
Nope.
And that's always been the case. And I think if you go to law enforcement and you look for the guys with the stripes on their sleeves or the stars on their sleeves, the ones that have been on for a while, you'll